This video will teach you how to create a new connector by customizing an existing one. We will use the REST connector to get different resources from the Star Wars API. The API works this way: swappy.dev/API/ and then the name of the resource, for example, people, and it will return the desired data collection. Really simple. Let's open the web modeler to create a basic process. It includes a non-start event, followed by a task, and an end event. For the task, select the REST outbound connector. Authentication is not required. Swappy is not secure. As a method, we will use get, since we only want to get a resource. The URL can be built using a fill expression, providing the text URL plus a process variable to provide the resource name and pass it along with the text URL. In the end, the result can be stored in a new process variable. That's it. We can now deploy and run the process. We need to provide a value for the resource among the existing ones. Let's use films, for example, and then click Run. We check the process instance in Operate, and in seconds, we will get the response. As we want to use more Swappy calls in the future, let's customize the current REST connector template to create a specific Swappy connector, making it easier to use. Back to the modeler, you can save the configuration of the connector as a new template, giving a name and a description. Let's configure the new connector template to fit our use case. On the right panel, we have the properties, and not all of them are required or helpful. For example, the authentication is not required to perform the call, and the method will always be get. Why don't we hide them from the properties panel? On the left side, we have the JSON file which represents the connector template. Some of these properties are mandatory and we can modify them. Other properties are useful to describe the connector template, define the type, what BPMN element will be applied to, etc. Groups are great to group properties in order to ease the configuration. For example, all the authentication settings could be in a group. The inputs, the outputs, retries, and errors could be in different groups. By doing this, we can help the user in configuring our connector. Let's arrange the groups differently. We don't need more than a resource, an output mapping, and an error handling groups. In the properties collection, we have this first property with a CB task definition type and a value IO Camunda HTTP-JSON1. This is the identifier of our connector, and we can change the name to IO Camunda Swappy-connector1. Next property is the authentication type that we don't need to display in the properties panel. We can hide it, changing its type to hidden. Our connector can use different resources to perform the call. Why don't we add all of the available resources in a drop-down widget so users can select the resource they want to use? For doing that, I can create a new property, type dropdown, with a label, a group, a default value, and all the choices we want to display, giving a name and a value. And let's bind this to a CB input type, name resource, so we can store the value there. Next we can do is to hide the method. It will only be get anyway. For the URL, you can change the type to hidden, since it always be the same. The header and the query parameters could be removed, since we won't use them. You could leave the connection timeout in seconds and the retry backoff properties, or just hide them. Not really important now for our test. As a customized option, you can add an icon for our brand new connector. The last thing you need to do is to publish the connector. You can publish it to the organization to allow members to use it in their diagrams, or, like in our case, publish it to the project. This will enable the connector in your project and allow collaborators to use it in their diagrams. Coming back to your project, you just need to select the task and go to the template where there is an update available and just apply the Swappy connector. And that's it. Now you can start customizing your connector templates.